Hello everybody, and welcome to the video that I'm going to explain what my expectations on your papers are, and we'll go through this first paper. Now, I don't know if I've posted it in there yet by the time you watch this video, but sometime later today I'll have a PowerPoint slideshow on the Native American creation stories, which your book interestingly calls Creation Myths. So you can go through that, and hopefully that will help you with your readings as well. But here is the actual assignment. Page length, each short essay should be about 400 to 600 words. This is approximately two double-spaced MLA formatted pages. There is a handout in the Writing Great Papers that shows you how to create an MLA formatted paper. This is something your English 1101 and 1102 teachers should have taught you. If they did not, then I would be surprised actually, because I think every English teacher at Darton requires MLA formatting. So, 2 pages double spaced. Really no more than that because I've got to read a lot of these papers every week. The assignment: compare 3 Native American creation stories that are included in our textbook to the creation story in Genesis chapters 1 through 4 of the King James Version of the Christian Bible. So, the whole purpose of doing this, of giving you the Native American creation stories and then asking you to compare them to the Genesis story, is that you're going to find that there are a lot of similarities and you're going to find that there are a lot of differences. Creation stories are usually created by the people that live in an area based upon what they find around them. So for the Cherokee one, I believe turtles actually play a large role in that. In fact, I'll go ahead and take a look at this. I'm pretty sure that a turtle plays a major role in this. Okay, yeah, the Earth is a great island. Remember that they did not know about round Earths at the time. Talking about the animals that are nearby. And then you got the Bering Strait. There was no Earths on the plain. So you remember, the Bering Strait is plains, not very mountainous. And you keep going on through it. And of course, the raven plays a major role in the creation myth of the Bering Strait Eskimo. Why? Because ravens are common up there. So, you're going to see that creation stories are created by people based upon what they see around them every day. And a lot of these stories were told orally, so they would be passed down from generation to generation. There would usually be, in most Native American communities, a storyteller who would then adopt a young person with a good memory and who could tell a good story, and he would pass all those stories down to that storyteller. And then that person would choose somebody else. Often, these chosen people would be the son of the storyteller. And then the son would carry on to his son, and so on and so forth. But there might be times when a storyteller would choose someone else. So, you've been taught all of your life that the earth was created by one omnipotent God who said, "Let there be light," and there was light. "Let there be, an earth," and there was earth. "Let there be," let there be. And then he created a place called the Garden of Eden, which he stocked with animals of his own creation, which he then created man to rule over the domain of the animals. And then man got lonely, so God gave him a mate, which he called woman. And of course, God named the first man Adam and named the first woman Eve, and all of this stuff. But now you're going to find that not everybody knew the Garden of Eden story. In fact, many older cultures had their own versions of creation stories. And maybe this might encourage you to look into other Native American creation stories or creation stories from other cultures, like Chinese creation stories or something like that. So, the purpose of this is to take all 3 of these, and yes, I know that the Winnebago poem is only 8 lines, and there's not a lot in there to compare to the Garden of Eden story, but you need to do this. You need to do some comparing and contrasting of all 3 of these. So I need to know when I read your paper that you've read all 3 of these creation stories and that you've thought deeply about it. Because what we're trying to do in this class is we're trying to teach you creative thinking skills, or critical thinking skills. Critical thinking, if your English 1101 and 2 teachers didn't tell you this, is all about taking information that you take in, processing that information with that organ between your ears that we call a brain, and then coming to your own informed conclusions. So that is what the purpose of critical thinking is, and that's what the purpose of these assignments are. This is why you take literature classes, is to take in information, analyze it, and then come up with your own conclusions. So, that is the assignment. Reminder of what a good essay consists of. You should have an introductory paragraph that leads up to your thesis statement. Your thesis statement will usually be at the end of the opening paragraph. Sometimes thesis statements can be at the end of the second paragraph in longer documents, but since you're only typing 2-page papers, usually your thesis statement should be at the end of the one. And I'll talk more about what a thesis statement is in a minute. Every paragraph should have a good topic sentence, usually the first sentence of the paragraph. That will let me know what the main point you're trying to develop is. There should be enough development in each paragraph. So if you have a paragraph that's only 2 lines, it's probably not nearly long enough. You need good development throughout it. And then a concluding paragraph. I don't want to feel like I've stopped reading in the middle of your essay. I should feel like there's a sense of completion. Just like if you saw a movie and then it seemed like the movie ended in the middle of the movie and you're like, wait, it's not over yet. I feel robbed. It's the same way with an essay. I should feel like you're finished when I get done reading your essay. And that's the purpose of a conclusion, is to sum up or to emphasize or something like that. All right, what do I expect from this essay? I do want analysis, not story summaries. I've already read these stories. I know how they go. But I want you to compare and contrast them and give me some good analysis. So do not give me a story summary. Your paper should be foregrounded in logos, not ethos or pathos. I say that that's important in this paragraph because I don't need a church sermon. I can get those every Sunday when I go to church. What I need from you is to say, well, these two things are similar, these two things are different. That's what I'm looking for. So if you are very strong in your faith, that's great. The Genesis part of this should be easy for you, but I don't need a sermon, and I don't need you to tell me how Jesus is my Lord and Savior or anything like that, because we're talking about Genesis here. We're not talking about the New Testament. So give me logos, which is basically logic. And if you're not familiar with Aristotle's 3 modes of persuasion, logos, ethos, and pathos, look it up. Because these are the 3 ways in which people try to influence one another. I do expect direct quotes from the creation stories and from Genesis to be used as evidence. Don't use pure speculation. So you should have been taught how to do direct quotes, especially in your English 1102 class. Pull out your old My Blank English book if it's been a while for you so you can remember. Don't just tell me, well, in the Winnebago, or actually, don't just tell me, well, in the Cherokee story, this happens. No, say in the Cherokee story, give me the direct quote of what happens. Put it in their words. Don't put it in your own words. That does not mean I want an essay that's a collection of quotes. What that means is you give me a quote and then you explain the quote. Don't just say quote, 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 because that will get you a failing grade. So you don't want that either. And then use specific details. Don't be vague. Don't use words like thing, stuff, some believe, because I'm going to ask you some what believe. Some people or some wiener dogs. I don't know. So be specific. Use specific details. Don't ever be vague in an academic paper. And then, of course, the rest of this is rubric, which you can kind of read on your own, but I'll go ahead and go through this briefly. Formatting, again, there is a handout in the I believe it's the Writing Great Essays folder that tells you how to format a paper properly in MLA format. Follow those rules step by step, and I promise you, you will get all 6 of these points. These should be 6 easy points. Open the document, follow the rules step by step, write your paper. That's it. So 6 points for that. For the correct font, for the correct margins, for the correct spacing, not having that little extra gap between paragraphs like Word wants to put in there, you need to make that a 0. And then, of course, the header should be properly formatted. And please, when I get your paper, your header should not say last name and then a page number. When I say last name in there, I mean your last name, not the word's last name. So put your real last name in there. Don't be a wise guy. Thesis statement. Okay. This is something you should have learned in English 1101. Every good academic essay should have a thesis statement in it. What a thesis statement is this. It is, in one sentence, what your essay is about. When I read your thesis statement, I should know right away what I'm going to be reading in your paper. It should be clear. What is it about? It should be spoken with conviction. Your thesis statement should not say something like, I think blah, blah, blah. Or your thesis statement should not say something like, well, perhaps blah, blah, blah. Your thesis statement should be a statement where you're going to say exactly what you're going to prove in your paper. It is a thesis statement. This is not a thesis question. We are not playing Jeopardy in this class. Go ahead and state your statement as a statement. Don't say, well, why shouldn't so blah, 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 blah. No. Say what it is you have to say in a statement. And usually it's going to appear in the opening paragraph. So you're going to build up to your thesis statement. There are good ways to open essays. You can open essays with quotes. You can open essays with hypothetical situations. You can open essays with little stories about this happened in my life. You can open essays with statistics. There's all kinds of ways you can open an essay before you get to the thesis statement. We call that a lead-in. So you should have a lead-in before you get to this thesis statement. Follow these guidelines on your thesis statement, and you should get all 10 points. Should also be a single sentence. A thesis statement should not be multiple sentences. In the movie world, whenever I was writing screenplays and trying to get my big break in Hollywood, we call that an elevator pitch. Because when you're riding on an elevator with a very important producer, you've got about 10 seconds to get your story idea to him. So you do it in one sentence. And in that one sentence, you should wow the movie director or wow the movie producer. I'm not expecting you to wow me with your thesis statement, but when I read your thesis statement, I should know in one sentence what it is you've actually going to try to accomplish. Organization and structure. Basically what this means is you should have a clear beginning, middle, and ending. There should be an opening, there should be the body of the paper, and then there should be a clear conclusion at the end. If you don't have all three of those things, you lose points here. Also, you have the way your thoughts are organized. Your paper should not read like a random collection of thoughts. There should be some organization. There should be a method to your madness, if you will. I've given you two handouts in the writing grade essays, one called an argument planning sheet and the other a pre-writing plan. In both of those, you can use those to organize your thoughts. If you just throw a bunch of random thoughts on paper, you're going to lose points in this organization structure, and you'll probably lose points in everything else as well. So plan your essay out before you write it. Those are my favorite ways to plan an essay out, so I provide them. I am writing my doctoral dissertation, and I am using those planning sheets. You can use those planning sheets for a little 2-page essay. But make sure that you have your thoughts organized. So if you're going to, in fact, the way I would do it with this first paper is I would have a paragraph perhaps on the Winnebago, a paragraph on the Cherokee, a paragraph on the Bering Strait Eskimo, go to the conclusion. Yeah. Opening, Winnebago, and of course you're going to discuss Genesis in all three paragraphs. So opening, Winnebago, Cherokee, Eskimo, conclusion, done. That would go into the organization structure. All right. Your main points. The main points are the major points that you're going to use in order to prove your thesis. You'll see down here that if my thesis is that a certain baseball team, obviously not the Atlanta Braves, but if a certain baseball team is going to win the World Series, my primary points would be because they have strong pitching, clutch hitting, and excellent fielding. So those are my three primary points. So your three primary points will probably be the comparison and contrast between each tribe and Genesis. Those will probably be your main primary points in this first paper. And your primary main points, as you look through the rest of the reading schedule, may be something having to do with whatever each reading is. Those will probably be your main points. And then you got the supporting secondary points, supporting details, we call them. These are the details which actually build up your main points. So if my main point is that this team has strong pitching, I might say the starters have the lowest ERA in the league. If you're not familiar with baseball, a low ERA, which is an acronym for earned run average, is a good thing. It means the pitcher's not giving up a lot of runs when he's pitching. So the starters have the lowest ERA in the entire league. That's pretty good. The middle relief has a lot of powerful arms. The middle relief has a bunch of pitchers that can come in and throw a baseball through a brick wall. That makes it harder to hit. And then, of course, Jim Fireball, who is the closer, has not blown a save all year. Again, for those of you that don't follow baseball and don't know what I mean by this, a save is when a pitcher comes into a game in the final inning and gets the final 3 outs without giving up the lead. Pitchers that are really good at that get to do it all the time. Pitchers that are not get relegated to middle relief, and they try to find somebody that can close out the game. A blown save is basically the pitcher gave up enough runs not to get the win. So this pitcher has never given up enough runs not to give up the win. Well, that's pretty good. So that means if the team has a lead in the ninth inning, they're going to win the game. Those 3 points combined all prove the main point, which is strong pitching. And again, with strong pitching, you have a pretty good chance of proving the thesis, which is the World Series. And I won't go through the clutch hitting and excellent fielding, but you can see that you have that as well. Your essay planning sheets can come in very handy in helping you with these main points and supporting details. You list them out, you have them organized, then you write your paper. And the paper will almost write itself. Quotations, formatting, and use of quotations. That's 10% of your grade. If you don't have a single direct quote in your paper, you're going to lose all 10 of these points. You need direct quotes, both from Genesis and from your particular story. So make sure that you have quotes in there, because it's one thing, if you don't have direct quotes, you're going to run into the trap of trying to summarize stories, and you don't want to do that. Again, use of quotations means you don't overuse quotations. When I open up your paper, your paper is going to be run through the Dropbox, and they're going to be run through a Turnitin.com reader. So that's how I catch your plagiarism. The quotation should be about 10 to 15% of your paper, and that's it. The rest of it's all you. So 10 to 15%, that's it. I don't want anything more than that. Maybe 1 quote per paragraph would be ideal. Maybe 2 quotes if you're quoting both Genesis and the story you're quoting from. Also, formatting. If you've forgotten how to format, I have got, you've got the My Blank English book that you had in English 1102, and I need to go in fact, I will go ahead and do this before you watch this video probably. I will have a link to the Purdue Owls quotations page, and I will put that, in fact, I'll actually make up a new module of web links, and I'll go ahead and put that link in there so that you can use that as your guide on how to quote and cite the quote properly. That's a 2-part equation. The quote needs to be formatted correctly, and the citation itself needs to be cited correctly. Otherwise, you lose points in that. And then surface errors. Folks, you have been through English 1101 and 1102. There are probably some of you that had to go through Learning Support English. I am going to expect you to write on a collegiate level. You can see that about a quarter of your paper is, do you spell your words properly? Do you punctuate properly? Do you have complete sentences? Do your verbs and subjects agree? Do your pronouns and antecedents agree? Is it clear what the antecedent of the pronoun is? And notice that very last one at the bottom. I will hammer you if I get a paper that says you throughout it. In fact, that is one of my biggest pet peeves, is to see the word you in a paper. Now, if it appears in a direct quote, that's fine. I don't think that occurs in this week's readings, but you have to understand, I don't need to be lectured at. I don't need you to tell me what, don't write this. When you read the Cherokee creation story, you will think blah, blah, blah. How do you know what I'm going to think when I read the creation story? So I will hammer a student on their grade if I open up that paper and there's the word you throughout it. How do you prevent that? There's a search feature on your word program. So if you're one of those students that has a bad habit of putting you in every paper, go to the upper right-hand corner of your Word document after you've printed your essay. In fact, this might be the last thing you do before you turn it in. Put the word you in that search term, and then have your paper search for all the uses of the word you, and change all of those. Remove them, reword the sentence, do what you have to do to not put the word you in there. But also, you will get hammered if I see a lot of fragments, if I see a lot of missing commas, if I see a lot of agreement errors and things like that. So be aware that you're expected to write on a collegiate level. The way it works is I'm going to grade your papers in the Dropbox in D2L. And if I mark an error, there'll be a little blue bubble where the error has been marked. And there's a handout in the Useful D2L handouts that will show you how to see all those comments and how to see what's in those bubbles, how to expand those bubbles so you can see what your errors are. If your paper is so full of blue bubbles that it looks like it was written on blue stationery, then that is a problem, and that will get you a low grade. You need to write like a collegiate student, because what happens after this? You go to your 4-year school, or maybe you get your 2-year degree and you go out into the job market. A cover letter that's full of grammatical errors will not get you a job. In fact, it will get thrown in the recycle bin that quickly, because you are competing usually against a whole bunch of other students. and you do not want to compete against a whole bunch of other job applicants with a letter full of sentence fragments and such. So I will grade you harshly on the grammar as well. That's it. That's my expectations for this. There will be videos like this on the rest of the semester, but they won't be 20 minutes long. They will all be much shorter because I'm not going to go through these assignments as thoroughly as I did this one. Because everything after this, from the moment where it says a reminder of what a good essay is, this will be identical on every assignment. So the rest of these will be much shorter than 20 minutes. So I've given you all the resources I can. I've made this as clear as I can. I've made it as thorough as I can. I've given you extra resources in D2L. Please use those resources. And if you're still struggling, call me on my office phone during my office hours, which are posted in the syllabus. Send me an email. You can either send it to the Darden email, or you can use the email that's in D2L. Either one of those. Or if you're on campus, come visit me in person. I will be in my office during these office hours. I will be ready to see you and to say, okay, let's go through this together and help you with whatever it is you need. Whatever you do, do not ask for my help and then say I didn't explain anything at the end of the semester, because then that would be your fault, not mine. Okay, so that's it. I hope you enjoy these creation myths. I think you're going to find this assignment a lot of fun. I think you're also going to find it enlightening to compare and contrast them to the creation story that you've been hearing for your entire life. And as I said in another video, I'm going to challenge things that you have been taught before and ask you to think deeply about them throughout the rest of the semester. So that's it. Have fun.